Do you also want to be able to clear your full screen with one attack and have a good time on a good build that is well-rounded in defenses and offenses? Then look no further, because you are correct on this video. Basically, I played this build for way too long, I think 9 days in-game / played, and I am still for a few more minutes the highest ranked monk in hardcore SSF. And I'm going to make a build guide for this video with all the knowledge that I gained over playing this for like literally nearly a month now, and the help of chat. I will at the very beginning now just hover through my passive tree for anyone who just wants this information and show all jewels for real quick, and you can just pause for a second if you want to, and I will show all gems. But I want to make this video in a way where I actually explain how it works. I will give you guys different options how to build this character, and we will talk about the defenses and offenses. But I want you, if you want to invest your time, to understand what actually is happening on my character right now. So let's just straight up jump into theory. This build, for all the Path of Exile 1 players, is basically you play a trickster that freezes the whole screen. It has one weakness that I would point out, and that is gear dependence. I don't know if any other PoE2 build doesn't need gear, but this is a build that like lives and dies with the weapon. And the single target is maybe the second weakness, I would say. I don't think that I need it more so far, but you could probably say that it's not the best. So, we are a trickster from Path of Exile 1 that freezes the whole screen. Sounds really good, right? Right, but there are a lot of options. I want to go with through all of them together with you. And I want to start with, in general, why Invoker? So Invoker has the giga upside that you can basically play an evasion rating build and can pick up and protect me from harm. I played with this for the majority of time until I swapped to Acrobatics, but I think right now that Acrobatics is the best setup. Basically, Invoker has this very nice node where you don't ever have any kind of spirit problems on your gear as long as you have a decent body armor. You can just pick this up and you don't need spirit anywhere else, and you can have a lot of auras. As you can see, I have over 250 right now. And this is something you can take. I think this is pretty good if you struggle with like getting hit by small hits, and until you have like around 20,000 evasion rating. Afterwards, you want to pick up Acrobatics. And you have a lot of damage, and you have one button that basically gives you good single targets. Okay, so evasion rating, how does it work in general in Path of Exile? The only thing you need to know is it helps you to avoid most damage, not all. Acrobatics lets you avoid all damage with a certain kind of entropy to it. Evasion rating, let's say for example right now I have Acrobatics, I have 75% evasion rating. Basically, you have 75% chance to evade everything, with Acrobatics also like Barras and other like on-death effects. But you might think, okay, maybe I can get lucky and I can't get hit 100 times in a row. Not really. Path of Exile has a built-in system that basically makes you not have giga lucky or giga unlucky streaks. Armor as physical damage reduction, I mean everyone probably watched the Crypt video. I personally think it's not that bad, but basically small hits that deal physical damage get mitigated in a pretty okay-ish way. Energy Shield is obviously the defense of choice with CI for me right here. The reason why is because we get a high number and we can overflow with Grim Feast. But CI and Energy Shield, I had a lot of people that came to me and asked me, how do you deal with stun and freeze on this? This is a very important thing. We have studied the defenses, you know? You can technically pick up Icebreaker. You can technically also go here, and for example, take this cluster. This is a good cluster. But I just always said, why is it a problem? Because like I played this build a lot. Yeah, I get stunned sometimes. I never get frozen because I have a charm. Like I don't have any freezing problems. But I realized that there is this information that is wrong. That is that CI brings you down to 1 life. So that makes your stun and freeze threshold being 1. That would mean every time you take any cold damage, you would be frozen. And anytime you take any fizz damage, you would get stunned. However, I don't know where this, why this information exists, but I was curious, tested it in-game, and I am sure that this is wrong. I don't know exactly how Freeze and Stun Threshold interact with Energy Shield, but I tested Fizz hits and I tested Cold hits, and I did not get frozen or stunned by anything. What is the case in PoE 1 is the following. You, if you have CI clicked, have Stun and Freeze Threshold that would be your life if you wouldn't have CI clicked. So for me, it's 1.4k. I think it's the same in PoE 2. Maybe there is some addition to the Energy Shields. I don't know exactly, but I definitely can say that Stun and Freeze Threshold is not equal to 1 if you click CI. So, another thing, when aggro, when PDR, honestly, try to get to acrobatics as fast as possible, because the physical damage reduction, I feel like there are like 5 mob types where I can notice a difference now that I'm acrobatics, where I would say the physical damage reduction is better. But early on, you're probably fine taking the physical damage reduction, the protect me from harm node right over here. But acrobatics, like around 20,000 evasion rating, is probably always worth to take. Yeah. So defensive shell, evasion, energy shield, good. But then we also obviously have the giga good thing that is called Grim Feast. Grim Feast, all of you know it. I don't need to explain it. Basically, you can overflow to double your EHP. Now, this video is being recorded at the 4th of January, and there is a good chance that it doesn't exist anymore when you see this, and they removed it from the game, because there are a lot of people that think that. In that case, what we will do on Invoker, and that's why I really like Invoker, is we take this out and we skill Favors a Choice. At the beginning of the map, we will just do Master Yi W from League of Legends. We just meditate our way to being overflown and basically unspec these 2 points. And that is my plan for when Grim Feast would be removed. And with that, we still can be overflown, we still can have a good time, and we still will be able to live even if that will be removed. Okay, that's our defensive shell. And the question is, how is our build functioning? We have Ice Strike as our main ability, right? Ice Strike as like these first 2 smaller attacks that are faster, and then the third one that is like a big swing. The big swing is basically 50% less speed, but basically a little bit more than double damage. The third swing is often very potent when you have a lot of monsters to initiate some chaining from your heralds, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So we basically Ice Strike around and have a good time. And when we are doing some single target, we put down our Tempest Bell. Tempest Bell is something I want to explain because it's probably worth for all of you to actually understand the gem. Even though I don't have any guarantee that anything I say in this video is actually 100% true, it is the best knowledge that I have right now. Nothing is 100%, you guys get the point. Tempest Bell, you put down the bell. Obviously, you need to build the 4 combo. No? You need to basically hit a monster with 1, 2, 3, 1, 4 times 4. No? So Tempest Bell, you put it down, it deals some AoE damage, and then it stays there. And then you can see the last line, bell is destroyed after 27 hits. Every time you hit the bell with anything, the bell resonates, and this resonating is a shockwave that deals attack damage based on your attack damage, not 233. Ice Strike, for example, is around 240. For 246, you can see it here, attack damage. And the bell is basically releasing a shockwave that is nearly doubling your damage if you just would Ice Strike on the bell. And you would have an enemy that is getting hit by the Ice Strike and the bell at the same time. Now, that's just the beginning. This bell is actually very complex. And the first thing we need to talk about here, this line is very good, no? Deals more damage per elemental ailment afflicting the bell. Basically, the bell is an entity that you can shock and that you can freeze and that you can ignite and that you can chill. And that deals more damage. We will get lightning damage and cold damage to the build and we chill in. And with that, like, the bell deals more damage. Now, the very important part that is not talked about a lot, but is insane. The Tempest Bell can get triggered by more than just the Ice Strike. This is where Charged Staff comes in. This ability consumes your power charge, and if you have a power charge, you can click the ability, and then you go to laser sword mode. With that laser sword mode, you, instead of just having an Ice Strike, will now release a lightning shockwave, and this lightning shockwave and the Ice Strike are two different attacks, so to say, and both of them can trigger the Tempest Bell. Charged Staff is not just a cool looking laser sword that is giving you a little bit of flat lightning damage, but it can double trigger the Tempest Bell. Basically, if my Tempest Bell would be like this log over here, this wooden log, and I would have my Charged Staff up, I could not Ice Strike over here, like I would need to walk. But if I would hit the bell, this log, with my Charged Staff from here, it would already trigger the Shockwave. And thus, if you attack with Ice Strike while having Charged Staff, you double trigger it, which is an insane damage single target increase. That is mostly what you need to know about the bell, beside of one other fact. Single target is, set-wise, best improved by, instead of, for example, having these heralds, putting in another Tempest Bell. And then the best single target, set-wise, you have is like you put down 3 bells and then you hold down right-click on the boss. This is very likely to get nerfed or to get patched, so I'm saying it right now. I guess use it as long as it's possible, and afterwards, you have to get a good weapon, lol. That's, however, how the single target and how the bell works. Now that we covered the bell, and the charged staff interaction, that's charged staff, very important. How do we gain power charges? So the charged staff needs to consume power charges. We have 2 steps for that. First, resonance. We gain power charges instead of frenzy charges. Secondly, the aura combat frenzy. This aura is giving you a frenzy charge when you electrocute, freeze, or pin an enemy every 1.7 seconds. This is always up. Charged staff while mapping for me is always up with this setup. That's all you need. You take profusion here to get another charge. So basically, we just walk around, we freeze everything anyways, and when we freeze stuff, we gain a frenzy, but no, we actually gain a power charge. Okay, bell done, charged staff done. Ice Strike is basically like an enhanced auto attack. Now, the most important thing and the most beautiful thing about this build is the clear. And for that, you see right here, right now, Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice are both in here and have both 4 support gems linked. There is a short and a long explanation for this. I will give you guys the short, that is still enough to understand what happens. Herald of Ice is an aura that is based on your attack damage. It can create an explosion when you shatter an enemy with an attack hit. What does that mean? You freeze an enemy and that frozen enemy dies. That is equal to shatter an enemy. We freeze permanently, and then if we kill a frozen enemy, this guy is shattering. Herald of Ice then deals an explosion based on attack damage, again 265%, pretty good number. And surrounding monsters get damaged by cold damage. Now you would think very initially, okay, if I deal cold damage, then the surrounding enemies also get frozen, right? And then the Herald of Ice can basically chain off each other, right? Because one guy explodes because he shatters. The guy next to him dies by the Herald of Ice, also should shatter. No. Herald of Ice by itself, I don't even know if it is described anywhere, but it doesn't freeze enemies by itself. It can chill enemies, but it cannot freeze. So for you to be able to get a chain, like I showed in the beginning of the video, in the clip right here, to be able to get such chains, you need to do something to ensure that the surrounding monsters get frozen as well. And there are 2 options. Option number 1, you take Herald of Thunder, and your Herald of Thunder gets as much cold damage and freeze buildup as possible. So basically, you trigger the Herald of Ice. You kill an enemy, the Herald of Ice shocks. No? Look at these support gems, all of them are lightning stuff. It shocks, and the shock is triggering Herald of Thunder. And by triggering Herald of Thunder then freezes. And that's how both of them back to back, when Herald of Ice gets triggered, Herald of Thunder gets triggered, blah, blah, blah. Herald of Ice shocks, Herald of Thunder gets triggered, Herald of Thunder freezes, Herald of Ice gets triggered. That's option number 1. So you buff your Herald of Thunder, and you with as much cold stuff as possible. The most important thing is probably Glaciation and Cold Infusion. Afterwards, maybe Ambush. I just ran out of support gems on this, honestly. And Shock Siphon. And the Herald of Ice, you give as much lightning damage as possible. So Lightning Infusion and Magnified Effect are the most important ones. So, and Innervate is just some additional buff we can get every now and then. Because if we kill, like, Innervate is basically just, we kill stuff with our Herald of Ice and then we get a short duration of extra damage as lightning damage. With that understanding, you now know, okay, the Herald of Ice is not able to do a Shatter chain by itself, but with the help of Herald of Thunder, it can. There is, however, the second option, and that is the one that most people are or have been doing at the beginning, and that is a unique ring that I surely will be able to find right now instantly, because surely it's not in my unique tab. Unlucky. It is in any of my other tabs. There it is. This unique ring works as well. You can also just use a Herald of Ice together with this ring, and it would have the same effect. The reason I'm not using this ring anymore is basically it doesn't have any stats beside of the chilled. The last line is the important one. Enemies chilled by your hits can be shattered as well frozen. You guys can see now. Okay, Herald of Ice is just chilling by itself, but with this ring, it can also make the frozen shattering stuff, and then it can chain off each other. No? The problem is, I killed one king in the mist, and he dropped this belt. That belt is a little bit too good, you know, to waste with Pole Circle. So I used 2 rare rings right now, and I swapped to the setup with the double heralds. Okay, congratulations, guys. You basically understand everything that this build has as mechanics now. Where do we go now? How do we scale damage is the last thing. So I played a lot of different options, and I would say all of them beside of crit. The one I ended up on with is, you want Hoa. You want these gloves, unless they get nerfed, Lemar. We don't know anything. This is like the 4th of January, guys. Maybe tomorrow GGG comes out with a statement and this build is like completely new. I don't know. But this is insane. I couldn't believe it because I'm not attribute stacking, you know. I didn't like... Yesterday, I just came up with the idea, what if I just equip it and see how much damage it gives me? You guys want to know how much damage this gives me? Look at this number right now, okay? Ice Strike, yeah, look at it. 112k, I take off the gloves. It's 1 item slot. Bruh. This is like 60 or 50% more damage with 1 socket, and I am not actively stacking attributes. I have a very normal tree. And I was so surprised, but that is base number 1, okay? Hoa, very good, and you can get it in SSF because you just have to farm Zesh 0. You just have to farm a lot of breaches, and maybe you get lucky on the first one, but Zesh 0 on this build is a job. The other very important thing to scale damage is a weapon. And yeah, at the end of the day, this is a very good weapon, man, for SSF especially, like, holy. But it's pure RNG. And yeah, it is. It is what it is. You will have to run around. You will have to have an item filter that is showing you a good amount, or like every white quarter-step base that is kind of good. You need to put a transmute on it, and you need to hope. And then you are gonna slamming accuracy rating, not once, but 100 times before you hit the actual fist slam for once. It is what it is. With these 2 things, however, and this current tree that is like literally half the defenses, my damage right now is pretty good. These are the priorities, good weapon and Hoa. There is one thing I want to add, and one thing that I didn't see another Invoker doing yet, but I think it's really good after playing for a long time, and this is these 3 nodes. These 3 nodes here have insane value if you actually freeze an enemy, which is always the case until you go to like Pinnacles. I would probably unspec these 3 if you go for like Zesh 4 or something like that, but for mapping, I think these are omega undervalued, and I really, really, really like them. Okay, so how do we scale damage? We also know right now. By the way, Shock, Chill, and Ignite is the 3 ailments I didn't talk about yet that enemies can afflict. We basically just ignore them. Like, we just have enough EHP and we chillin', you know? Now, what are the gems? What are the gems you want to go with, and what are the gems I currently have? Basically, Unbound Avatar just gets plus levels. The only thing that does is duration, by the way. Nothing else, but it's not like these do a lot of anything else. On the Tempest Bell, this is the by far most important gem, if you use single bell, no? Because this one allows you to have 2 bells up at the same time, technically, but it allows you to gain stacks on the second bell while your first bell is already out. you will see in-game, like, test around. No? You guys don't just watch the video, please use your brain. I explain the mechanics so you guys can also think, oh, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this, you know? And just go in the game, use Bell with and without, you will see the difference, and you will, at single target, you will be so happy to have a support gem. It was a revelation to me. We take Culling Strike, this is the 5th gem, you want that as late as possible, and some Rage on hit, so on single target we can ramp a little bit faster, and Font of Rage. This basically is also just a little bit of rage generation. So your Tempest spell is generating rage. And here I have to say another very important thing. You barely use Tempest spell out of single target. Like, on single target, it's always up, but outside of that, you very rarely use it. But you really want one Ruby in your tree that has gained 1 rage on melee hit at some point. This is very, very, very important. And the thing I want to say here is, if you have this, rage, I don't know, it's like 2 seconds, something like that, and then it disappears. Like, you have 10 rage and you don't attack for 2 seconds and it's gone very fast. With this, however, if you play good, you can have 30% more attack damage while mapping all the time. And this build kind of pushes you permanently to stay active and stay kind of fast, so that the build feels better. You have a lot of buffs that are like on kill, and you want to just keep all of them up. You have Innervate, what I said before earlier with the Herald, no? This one. You also have Ice Bite on your Ice Strike, and you have the Rage. And if all of them are up, it's a very big difference, yeah? By the way, Unbound Avatar is like single target, but Breach, just always press it when it's up, honestly, and keep it for the bosses, nah? But always press it when it's up. It's like a button for more fun. The Ice Strike, and here are very important notes that you guys want to know. First of all, mana cost is annoying, and you maybe already wondered, why do you not have mana nodes on your tree? That is a very good question, Mr. Observer, or Mrs. Surely it's not like, okay, whatever. These 2 nodes here, and these 3, you can always take them and unspec them. Feel it out. Play the build, feel it out, do your own decision. However, there are support gems that don't have mana cost multiplier, like this cute little guy here. And then there are support gems that do have mana multiplier, cost multiplier, 140% you can see here. Concentrated Effect is probably the best in-slot support that exists for Ice Strike, because the AoE we need is on the Herald of Ice. We want to explode our whole screen, but it's not the Ice Strike that explodes the whole screen, it's our Heralds. So Conk Effect has, I mean, it has a downside, okay? Don't get me wrong. 50% less AoE. If you equip Ice Strike at level 14 and you just take Conk Effect and then you feel it, okay? Always feel it out again, but Conk Effect is insane value, especially when you get your Herald chains going. Martial Tempo is, however, the first support gem. Also, no cost multiplier. Very potent gem. This feels good, okay? Close Combat is one of the last things you want to take. It has 140% cost multiplier, but it's obvious what it does. And Primal Armament is also not really insane, because you only convert 80% of your physical damage to cold, so 25% more elemental is basically just 20% more damage, because, you know, we still have some portion of phys damage, you know what I mean? And Ice Bite. Here, a very important thing has to be said. If you start off with this build and you have an Ice Strike that is 3 or 4 linked, do not put Ice Bite into your Ice Strike. Only use it 5 link onwards, okay? So, like with a 5th socket, you can put Ice Bite here. Until then, Shattering Palm exists. This gem is basically just something that has a little bit of a bigger range. When you have an enemy nearby, you can jump to that enemy, and now comes the special tech. Freeze in this build, in this game is a little bit interesting. See, if you engage on an enemy with Shattering Palm, it deals no damage, yeah? It doesn't use your quarterstaff, so it's basically, you just Lee Sin Q, okay? But you're in, like, very late game, and you Q on a Rammus with 400 armor. So, anyway, so this is second part of Lee Sin Q, the Shattering Palm. However, if you attack the enemy with your little tiny chunky cold damage, yeah, it is the start of the freeze buildup. And now comes a very interesting fact. Now look at this Ice Bite support. Freezing, so the golden text, the gray text, supports attack skills you use yourself. Freezing an enemy with supported skills infuses all of your attacks with cold damage for a short time. Basically, it says if you freeze an enemy, you get 35% of damage as extra cold. Very interesting is, if you Shattering Palm to an enemy and just deal 1 cold damage, it is the start of a freeze build-up. If you then freeze your enemy with your Ice Strike, Ice Bite still triggers. That's very potent. So for leveling, you want to, like, at the first moment you can get Shattering Palm, you basically want to Shattering Palm to an enemy, kill the pack with Ice Strike, Shattering Palm to the next, and you want to have Ice Bite in there for as long as possible. In my endgame setup, I swapped to Blink, because Blink feels better in every way. So it is what it is. But for leveling, this is like one of the most important techs. Back to Ice Strike. There are a few supports I tried, and I wanted to talk about them. Behead is one of them. Behead, I thought, it's a mini headhunter, right? Maybe it's good, but holy moly, nah. Nah, boys. Nah. Behead, I tried it for like 2 maps, and I didn't feel anything. I mean in-game. I mean also IRL, but wait, what? Anyway. Behead, I cannot recommend. Maybe someone finds something. Maybe I misuse it. I didn't feel anything. So, nah. Crescendo is another one. So, Crescendo, you can technically calculate. It is a little bit more DPS as well, but it's more like a utility support. I would suggest to all of you, put it in, feel it out for 1 or 2 maps. If you like it, keep it. It doesn't have a mana multiplier. Basically, it doubles your third attack, the one that has less speed, but like, it has like 50% less speed, but it has like, it deals like 2.2 times the damage. It's a little bit more than double damage. Test it out. Feel it out. Okay, and Inspiration is obviously the last one. Inspiration always goes. Again, if you guys feel like my mana is not really potent, then put it in. This is feel it out. Mana cost is feel it out on this build. Take points if you want to and need to. Take Inspiration if you want to and need to. Whatever. Now you maybe ask, okay, what do I take out? It's probably Close Combat or Primal Armament to reduce your mana costs. Usually for one of these, I would say. And Ice Bite, you obviously don't want to use that on your Ice Strike when you are doing Pinnacle bosses. So Pinnacle bosses we talked about, Tempest Belts, yeah, but for Pinnacle bosses you also take out like Ice Bite and take one of these, probably Inspiration. Okay, one other thing I want to talk about is the Wind Dancer. This is kind of obvious, but these 2 support gems, one moderator told me about this. Your Wind Dancer is basically Grace from PoE 1. You get more evasion rating, but when you actually do get hit, you will get a shockwave around you, and this shockwave deals attack damage. Yeah? Is that called Gate Force? Being hit by a melee attack while you have this buff consumes or do damage and knock back enemies around. Anyways, I don't think it's the Gale Force part. It deals actually kind of good damage, honestly, but you want to support it with Maim and Blind, because basically that means you have a lot of evasion. You rarely get hit. But if you do get hit, you knock back everything from you, and all of those knockback guys now are blinded, and they have less movement speed. And I can definitely tell you guys, you will feel that. That is good. These 2 support gems, put them on the Wind Dancer. My Grim Feast here has just Clarity. If you have a Spirit for it, it always depends on your body armor, obviously, right? My Blink setup, maybe they patched that. Arcane Tempo apparently doesn't work yet, but beside of Ingenuity, I don't know what I put here. And Ghost Dance is the last thing, and only because of my Unset Ring I'm even able to wear this. The last thing you want to take. Ghost Dance doesn't work with Overflow. So the only purpose this has is basically you enter a map and you're not overflown yet, but monsters attack you, then you can like get a little bit of recovery. But for bossing, if you are not overflown on bosses, this gets some actual value. And here you take Fast Forward for the less skill effect duration. Okay, so I think we understand the core mechanics of how this build works, and we went through the gems. Very important thing, guys. Quality them as soon as possible. The order you want to quality them in is Ice Strike first, Wind Dancer second, probably your Herald's third, and Tempest Bell fourth, and then Charged Staff. I think Grim Feast, then Grim Feast and then Charged Staff. Blink, obviously some cooldown recovery rate, this doesn't do anything. But quality them, it's very, very, very potent. Like, quality in this game, way stronger than it has been in PoE 1. Okay, now the stats we generally want to have on gear and how to craft gear is next up. And after that, I will explain leveling, don't worry. No? So Your body armor is as much evasion rating and energy shield as possible. I personally think it's hybrid. The answer is hybrid because the evasion rating I have is fine. I don't need more. But you could technically go for a pure evasion base, which is also fine. But you would have like, if you would go for a pure evasion base, you would have like probably 5% more chance to evade, but you lose like 300 energy shields flats, which is a lot. Let me tell you guys, it is a lot. Like, let me show you, for example, I have some random ass 230 ES gloves instead of 23. Look at my ES. Look how much 300 flat would be. You know what I mean? So, I think it's hybrid. However, the rest of your gear, helmets and boots, pure energy shields. Your weapon, the best base is, I think, expert slicing. I will talk about crit in a bit, don't worry, and also about some different endgame setups. But energy shield, Hoa. Before Hoa, you go for some energy shield gloves and hybrid. For belts and jewelry, you just want to try to get as many defenses as possible on your amulet, probably, because higher ES, or like damage because you are not that invested into getting 8.5k energy shield. In your rings, you kind of want to balance out resistances and get some kind of flat damage is good, evasion rating is good, and intelligence or like dexterity is good for your ingenuity if you can afford it. My rings are total trash, actually. It's just for balancing resistances. And rarity obviously is a part, yeah. Now the last line I want to talk about real quick. Ice Strike converts 80% of your physical to cold damage. And I've heard someone say the leech mod is absolutely useless. I disagree with that because I can feel this mod on my that's the only reason I don't have mana investment right now. The leech helps me together with my mana flask and my these two help me to sustain mana on single target. I don't need anything on the tree. I don't need inspiration. It works. And I've played a lot without the leech mod and with the leech mod, and it is a difference. Even though it's only 20% of your ice strike, it is a difference, trust me. It really is a difference, and you want it, if possible, and if you can fit it somewhere. Elsewise, as I said, test mana out. Man, you guys will be fine. You just test it out, do your own stuff with it. Okay. Very important is, as I said, the rage on hit jewel. On jewels, generally, you probably want like energy shield if you want to go more defensively. Any kind of adding your flat attack damage is good, like increases in attack damage, increases with quarterstaffs, increased attack speed with quarterstaffs. That's all kind of fine. But, so, Mr. YouTube video dude, you did this whole hardcore SSF, right? Yeah. But how did you get this weapon? I can't afford this because this is 30D in trade, and now the harsh reality is, guys, gearing is in Path of Exile 2 in general, but like for this build as well, basically you transmute and augment like everything you can find, and then Regal and Exalt it, and you cope that at some point you hit something. I will go like over the whole gear, but like that's kind of the best we can do. I tried a little bit with greater essences, but this is all gear I came up here, hardcore SSF, no? In hardcore SSF, and the boots are like, listen, it's really hard to get 30 MS with useful stuff, okay? Please, no bully. But this is kind of how you acquire gear in this game. It is what it is. So, endgame options. I want to talk about these because there is the option of going crit, and I think Zizaran has a video and a guide with a crit build. If you want my honest opinion, this is a good guide, and you should check that out if you want to go crit. I would not suggest anyone to go crit unless you have a weapon that has base crit, and at best also some crit multi in it. I fought through crit a lot with like passive tree and all of that stuff, but I think this build pops off if you have like a weapon that has like 13% base crit and some jewels that give you additional base crit chance, not base crit. No? If you don't have that, honestly, don't go crit, in my opinion. If you want a tree for crit, go for the Zizaran video, you'll be fine. And if you take my tree, remove like this area up here because it's energy shield, remove this because it's defenses, and you maybe just want to play in softcore trade. And then put all of that into crit, it's also fine, honestly. And then take the same clusters like Zizaran did. Then CI versus non-CI. Listen, I explained you guys the mechanics about CI, stun threshold, freeze threshold, etc. Go CI. Feel it out as well. Like, try non-CI and then go CI. If you for some reason feel like non-CI is better, but like this thing that your life or that your stun and freeze threshold is based on one life, I tested it. Like, I don't know, maybe you don't want to trust me, but then you probably also don't waste. I don't even know how long this video will be. Anyway, CI is the angle. Man, you can stand in ritual, don't do anything. You just stay in the middle of ritual, hold down right click, and it's a vibe. You are in breaches, you never lose life. You have evasion and you have CI. CI is vibe, okay? But CI, like, let's say you play this build, you're like at 4,000 energy shield, I would say it's fine to go CI with, like, if you want to ask me for a number. But if you have like 2,500 life and 4,000 energy shield, maybe, still not. It really depends. Feel it out, you'll be fine. Trust, like, your own feeling sometimes and like your own testing and stick with what feels better. It's fine. But for me, endgame is CI. I am pretty sure about that, okay? And now the last thing that I want to cover is leveling. How do we level? So basically, the leveling on this, you could technically at level 6 say, I'm going with 3 bells from now on, and you could do that. I heard some people do that. You could also go with bow leveling, blah, blah, blah. What I did and what felt really good, and I really like the playstyle, is cold spells. What you want to do is get this base. Like, I heard some people also doing this. Sometimes you have to run Hillock twice to get, like, enough gold. You just want this weapon, if possible, with +2 to cold at some point. Now, this is just the base. Don't look at the stats. You don't want this at level 1, okay? You can't even wear it. But here I want to talk about real quick. Your leveling setup is basically, you want to have this weapon with the freezing shards. You want to link your freezing shards to control destruction and arcane tempo, the more cast speed option. Then you want to have Frost Bomb with, I think it's called Fast Forward, the less skill effect duration thing. And then you want to have Ice Nova with Unleash. Your freezing shards can shotgun. Freezing shards, maybe I can even, no, I don't have, why though? Oh, okay. Anyway, freezing shards is basically a barrage of cold projectiles that you fire, and they can shotgun, okay? That's your single target. Frost Bomb is your clear, and Ice Nova is your defense. Ice Nova can push away enemies with Unleash, it's feeling really good. You can also use your Ice Nova to push enemies into your Ice Bomb or Frost Bomb, and that's how you level until level 14. For that, you can use, for example, this tree that I made as an example. In this tree, like, you just path through these 2 attack damage nodes. World is not gonna go under, but you just take some skill speed. You could go here, but anyways, at level 14, you want to swap to Ice Strike. The Ice Strike you want to have with what I just showed before, the Conk effect if it feels okay. Elsewise, Martial Tempo or any of those. I don't know exactly when you can get which one of those, but I showed some options, right? And from level 14 on, you want to have your Ice Strike and your Bell. Overabundance, most important. Rage, really good. And these are like the first support jumps you want. You want to get your Tempest Bell or multi-bells. And at some point also, when you get the King in the Mist, you want to have Herald of Ice. That's your first aura. Afterwards, you look, okay, do I have more energy shield or do I have more evasion? If I have more energy shield, then I probably go Grim Feast. If I have more evasion, I probably go Wind Dancer. And at some point also, if you reach the nodes and all of that, you get your Combat Frenzy and your Charged Staff set up. And with that, you'll be fine. Alright, boys. So then one last thing I want to say is that, or like one more thing I want to say, is that you probably want filters for that. And for the campaign, you want to use NeverSync filters. After that, you could technically, and I will put that into the YouTube description, take my filters. There is one filter for the beginning of mapping, and then one filter for like 90 plus onwards. I will link all of these things in the description, and I will also be live on Twitch, probably for until I die in-game. If you have any other questions, feel free to go there. Everything will be linked in the description. And I think that this explains everything. I hope that you understood the mechanics. Beside of one last thing that I didn't explain, which is the ascendancy points and the order to go there. Listen, I forgot, sorry. Basically, when we talk about ascendancy, this is your first one, okay? I am the Thunder. It's just more damage, and it helps you with shocking enemies. Then there are two options. Either you go here, probably if you softcore is what you want to do, and you have a good button to have some burst of 10 seconds of Giga Damn. Or you go unspec these two and go for Protect Me From Harm if you think that you have problems with small hits. Because it definitely feels better against like white monster packs, maybe also against blue monster packs than pure evasion does. And the very important thing is you want to get a good body armor ASAP. Try to craft on evasion and energy shield body armor bases to fit in more spirit. But after all, it's still a game. Have fun with it. You can do whatever you want, whatever feels good, and you'll be fine, I think. If there will be Path of Building 2 at some point later, I will also add that to the description of the video, and then I'll put all of that stuff in again. I think it was announced for like in 10 days, like 13th or 14th of January. But yeah, until then, if you have any other questions, feel free to join my Twitch, because that's probably the fastest to get a response, or comment below this video. But more importantly, try to die less than I do. Bye.